I started my training career in Access. I learned then that Access is not an intuitive application that anyone can open and start using, or at least they can't do so well. Microsoft realized this and has taken great steps to make Access more accessible to people who aren't familiar with relational databases. That's good news for most users, even if you're a developer or a programmer, because it means we now have the ability to quickly, effectively, efficiently, and consistently create entire databases and database objects, as well as apply formatting to forms and reports. In this chapter, we'll look at what Access for Office offers in all of these areas to bringing some of the things that Access can do up to the level that other things have done since Office 2007, and we'll examine some of the things that are brand new to Access for Office. When we first launched Access, we're greeted by what we used to call the Getting Started screen. It might look a little different than 2007, but most of the basics remain the same. Let's talk about a couple of changes that we first see here. First of all, this isn't really a Getting Started screen. It's actually part of the Backstage view. You'll notice that the File tab is activated. This is simply the new option from the Backstage. And like every other application for Office, if we click on that, it would close, and then we would see an empty screen behind the scenes. And of course, to get it back, you just click on it one more time. Access will default to this view whenever you don't have a single database open. So what else is new? Well, anyone who designs databases in Access knows that it takes a long time to build a really good relational database with the objects and functionality we need. Microsoft enhanced the ability of the Access community to upload and share templates. This not only makes it easier for people to get started, it also allows those who enjoy working with Access and who have creative solutions that others may benefit from to share their work. Now that isn't really new. We've had the ability to upload templates for a while. But I think one of the reasons that some may avoid Access is that, unlike most of the Office applications, it requires more than just a casual familiarity to be able to create databases. I don't mean using databases, which is often a matter of simply typing and doing data entry, but designing databases is completely different. So, for anyone who doesn't use Access regularly or whose skills don't focus on relational database design, having a wider range of templates available is going to be just what they needed and might bring them into the Access fold. Well, in order to do that, what we see in this welcome screen, or from the Backstage view, is the ability to go to office.com. Remember that the categories and templates that you see on your screen will probably be different from the ones you see on mine, depending on the edition of Office you're running, as well as the fact that Office Online and its templates are always being updated. Right now there is one grouping called Business, and if you click on that, it, of course, takes you to the site. The first time you do this, it might take a few seconds for the previews to download. Here you can see a wide range of things. There is something about real estate, a demo management database, things for expense reports, time and billing, and much more. Over time, the library is going to build, which is part of the reason and part of the goal. So, if you're interested, take a look every so often to see what's new here, even if you don't usually use these templates. It's a good idea to look at what other people are doing, because then you'll get some creative ideas on what you can do with your own databases. At the top of our window, almost the middle pane of the screen, I can either go home or I can use the back button, very much like a browser. I'll click on Home. From here, before I go any further, you'll also see that there's a new database type. This is a web-ready database format. Instead of just being able to publish a database to the web that used to use scripting technologies, you now have an actual web database type. This is going to be great since so much of Office in the world is migrating to web and web-based content. So I wanted to mention that before we got back to the blank database. You might wonder what's new about this, and actually there's nothing new about the blank database type, but I'll create a blank database to use in this particular chapter. If we click on that, I need to move all the way over to the right and down to the bottom, and I want to give this a useful name. Since we've been talking about our training company, I'll make this the training database. I'm creating this from scratch, but I'll save it into the project files folder so that it's part of the project files available to you at the end of this course. That way, if you want to go back and look at our finished product, you'll be able to do so. Of course, to do so, I simply need to move over to the right, click on the little file folder, and then navigate to my folders, which are actually sitting on the desktop. So I'll click on the desktop option. Scroll down to find my project files folder, double-click on that, and of course I'll put this as part of Chapter 7. Because I already typed the name, the file name is already there, so now I can click OK to close the dialog box. I can check that everything looks good, and then I'll use the Create option at the bottom right of the screen to create the database. You'll see that Access for Office has some new subtle enhancements even before you get into the actual building or development of the database. At this point, having barely just opened the file, I think it's really interesting to see that in For Office, some of the new stuff is apparent even before getting into the file itself. The next step, of course, will be to start to develop the database, the tables, the queries, the forms, and the reports, using the new tools that For Office has to offer.